Hello, everybody.
Hey, Professor.
A weird waiting room problem. Uh, can you guys hear that little chime, that little bell that's ringing, or is it just in my end?
I'm hearing it too.
Well, what happened as of today was, uh, as of this morning, Zoom won't let me turn off the waiting room.
Sponge, by the way.
What's that? Someone just talked to me? No. Um, Last couple classes, I've figured out how to turn off the waiting room so I don't have to watch the door, like I like to say. And as of today, it refuses to be turned off. So it insists on sending anyone who comes in after me into the waiting room. Every time I figure out how to master it, they make a new change based on some kind of security need. So the best I could do is figure out how to create a doorbell. So now when people are in the waiting room, at least I'll know. Because in the past, there were people locked out for 15, 20 minutes longer in some cases. Excuse me if I vent. Sorry.
Mister,
Yes.
you're the Mr. Multimedia too?
Can you ask that question again?
You're the teacher in multimedia too?
Marilia, is that you? Who's talking to me right now?
It's me, Marilia.
Marilia, do you not recognize me?
Yeah, I do.
And so what are you asking me? Are you new to this class?
I missed a couple of classes because I didn't know it was still going.
Marilia, you and I are going to have to talk, okay? So be sure to pay close attention and we'll talk right after class. But
I can't stay after class. I have another class after this one.
Marilia, send me an email today, right? And if you don't know how to find the handout, then you can't pass this class. Let's be very clear. If you don't recognize me this late in the semester, I have big concerns. So you're going to have to reach out to me right away because we really can't talk about it during class time. This is the 10th class that we've had. So I have to be very blunt. If you can't recognize the teacher by week 10, class 10, something's gone very wrong. So I'm going to screen share right now. I'll be glad to help you as best as I can, but I really can't take class time for something this unusual, right? So I am going to screen share. That will remind you where my email address is, right? You have to write me today if you want to try to turn this around, okay?
Okay.
Because I recognize your name. Of course, I can't recognize you because you're not in front of your camera, but I'm going to share the screen right now, turning on my, going to Ironworks. I've had a very peculiar day, so almost nothing surprises me. All right, do you recognize this website?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to class 10. This is iraworks.com, and this is Ira who's talking to you. And at the top of the handout, this is my email address. This is the email address you should use to write me today and try to tell me what's going on. I really can't do this while the whole class waits. But really, don't be afraid, right? Write me, okay? Tell me what's on your mind. Give me a chance to respond, to understand what's going on. All right?
Okay.
All right, but don't forget. All right. Okay. Let me, life is peculiar. Every other class, Zoom changes some kind of security. Last week, I was so pleased to turn waiting room off, and today it won't let me do it. All right, I do believe everybody's here right now, though. So, all right, I think we're all here. Good. Life is strange, but it doesn't stop us from moving forward, does it? All right, let me just get a look, make sure that, see what's going on. Let's see, is this a full house? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 24 people. Yeah, that's everybody. We're all here. Good afternoon. Are you guys all right?
I just ate, so
Oh yeah,
I'm pretty
okay.
good.
All right. That's good. So, I'll tell you one thing about these strange days. It helps us all become increasingly resilient. I've always been a champion of improvisation. And boy, when the world keeps changing its rules every single day, one has to improvise nonstop. But listen, let's jump in. I want to tell you what's in store. So today is the last official day of the Photoshop section of our course. And I got a feeling a bunch of you really been enjoying the Photoshop aspect. I know a lot of you are also really enjoying the web design stuff before the Photoshop part. So maybe it's the same people. Maybe it's everybody. We're going to be moving through the whole semester through one cool subject after another. So if you like this general kind of computer and art conversation, you're going to like the whole rest of the semester. But since it is Intro to Multimedia, it really is these sections, small sections devoted to each of maybe 5 or 6 primary topics. So today we're finishing up the small Photoshop section, and we're also, with a little bit of luck, going to combine it with just a dash of web design again. Hang on a second, my Zoom doorbell is ringing yet again. Give me 1 minute here. Why does life have to be this complicated? I have no idea. Has this class suddenly grown? Okay, so, the thing about Photoshop is you're almost always using it for something else. You're working for someone who makes documentary movies. They've got 20 antique photos that are going to be part of the history of baseball documentary. And you're the one who's supposed to size them the way the director wants, make sure that they fit. Or maybe he wants the color ones to also be black and white and all that kind of trickery. Maybe you work at a magazine, obviously. There'd be loads of Photoshop and newspapers. And that, by the way, doesn't matter if it's print or online. So almost always you're doing Photoshop to pass off the photo to somebody else who's using it for a larger project. As I think I mentioned to you, I had my most intense Photoshop time while I was doing news. I worked at a newspaper, and I was the guy in charge of all the photos to make sure all the photos looked good and worked well and fit the bill. This class being multimedia, I've chosen to go all out just photos and then come back to, well, what about getting those photos on the websites? But I do have 2 motives today, really. I want to just touch HTML again today, just to bring it back so everyone could say, oh, yeah, that's not too far back here. It's around here. We could get it in front. And why would I want to do that? Well, the midterm's around the corner. So the big news today, the one thing I want everyone to be crystal clear on, what's today, Thursday? Tuesday, our next class, right? Yeah, Tuesday, we are going to do proper flat out midterm review, right? So like if you feel like you have a level of expertise in HTML and CSS, you won't need it. If you rocked the house when we were doing it, you're still going to want it. Even if you did great, you're going to want to just touch it again, get back to that HTML, CSS. I might even simulate the midterm, give you like a mini exercise just like the midterm, so everyone could just feel confident in it. But I want to tell you how it all relates, really. Yeah, when we finished up the HTML, CSS part, we'd already begun with Photoshop, right? Remember the crop tool? We were opening up some pictures and cropping them, and then we were using the image tag, the IMG tag. So there's a very strong relationship. So today I'm focusing mostly on Photoshop. If there's time at the end, we'll fix up and put them on a web page. Just to warm up to it. Next Tuesday is going to focus more on HTML and CSS. Be sure you're there, right? Look, I am going to post it to YouTube, so there's that. But on Thursday, 1 week from today, we start the midterm. Now, today's not the day where I'm going to answer a lot of questions about the midterm, right? It's really too soon, but I would like to give you a small heads up. It's going to be a 4-page website. So I'm going to provide one sample page of code for people who'd like a little help that they could borrow, as well as a sample style sheet. For people who want to really do it all themselves, which I really understand, you'll be able to do that also. But I'm going to provide the words for all 4 pages, neatly laid out in a Microsoft Word document and a PDF for anyone who doesn't have Microsoft Word. So you can pull real words, no lorem ipsum. I'm going to be supplying real photos precisely on the topic in separate folders to recommend these photos are best for the home page. These are best for the next page. So it's a 4-page website, but I'm going to act like the client first, right? This is the project. You're being hired for it, so to speak. And here are the words I need. It's a 4-page project, and here are the photos. And we let you loose on it. Now, so some of you are going to want to do some Photoshop in there. You're going to want to show off. Some of you are not going to like some of the photos, and you're going to want to search with what you know about searching, which I want to go over today. Find better photos. Or some of you may have photos on that topic. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity for Photoshop. I would like to say something about this intro class. My class is intense in the sense that I teach a lot, but it's not really that intense in terms of how I go about grading. There are 4 major projects. One's behind us. This next one's significantly larger, but I use even the midterm as a way to teach. So what's going to happen after I introduce it next Thursday is I'm likely to make an extra day, maybe even 2. We'll see. For you guys to work on it kind of together. You know, typically this is in a classroom and I walk around to each person and then just stop by, see how you doing, make a suggestion, ask you if you have troubles. I actually help. But I will need to see genuine competence. Like anyone's there, like what's a bracket? I'll just be very kind and say, you're going to have to take this class again. But I'm not going to help anyone learn it from scratch, especially with all the videos still being online. A person could literally take the whole class over if they wanted to. So that's the gist of it, right? Little Photoshop, little HTML with luck today. Next time I see you, mostly HTML, CSS warm-up. Do that for a day, I think just the 1 day. And then we start the midterm, which will take a couple of days. But before I jump in, are there any questions about any of that yet? I know there's likely to be down the road. Not yet. Okay, understandable. It's early. So let me screen share. Am I screen sharing already?
Yes.
Yeah, I am. And hey, you know something? I told you Zoom, which I love, and in a love-hate kind of way, doesn't show me when I'm recording anymore. Oh, I just noticed a tiny new icon. I'm recording, aren't I?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, you guys get the big one. I just found this little speck that's blipping at me. All right, so we're all good. Let me just get a look at the handout together for a moment. And I'm going to try to make, I do have a couple of announcements. All right, so I made some of them. Next Tuesday is the big day. Please don't be late, guys. A lot of you guys are late to every class. You know, it really, you will not succeed in life showing up late. All right. If you haven't downloaded today's assets, right, this is important. Can't join me today without the assets, right? Download them now. So they're available from the homepage, but they're also available right here. So I'm going to do this quickly because we've done very little of this before. I'd like you to click where it says right beneath prepare today's assets if you haven't already. If you're in Chrome, a little arrow pointed to the corner. That's a zip file. I don't want to make speeches about the zip file because we've done this a few times. But once you've seen it downloaded, you have 2 choices. The first one is the Mac way. The Mac way is you click directly on the name of the downloaded file. I'm in the lower left. You don't click the little arrow. You just click right on the name. That's the Mac method because that takes you to downloads and it uncompresses. In other words, it unzips. So I could ignore the zip. It's the folder I want. The Windows way, most of you guys know more about it than me, I have to confess. But you want to download it and find your way into the downloads folder yourself. So one way to do that after you've downloaded is click the arrow instead and see if it says show in folder, show in finder, whatever the Windows version of that is. It'll take you to your own downloads. I want to remind Windows people that the zips will work best by a long shot if you extract them first. Mac people get no choice, they have to. So they double click it if it didn't unzip. But on Windows, you're probably gonna have to do that yourself. Don't just open it, okay? Extract. I'm not an expert on it, but I taught in the Windows lab and we had this issue a lot. So I'm gonna ask you to right click on it if you're on Windows. It'll bring up this menu, look for extract or extract all, and please extract the whole folder before you get started. Not the most exciting thing that I teach, is it? Once you've gotten the folder, you don't need the zip anymore. It's the folder you need. The next step is up to you. I keep saying that professionals never work in downloads. They get their stuff delivered from clients, from their team, and they move it to wherever they like to work. I'm going to take Class 10 assets and put it on my desktop. So I have a very convenient bar on the left where it says desktop. I could just drag my folder right over desktop there, moved it out of downloads. If you prefer to do that, then go to the desktop and find that folder. You could open it up. You know, some of you guys are super advanced and some of you guys are brand new. I want to thank the advanced people for being as patient as you have been. I know it's hard when you know all about something and others don't, but once you are the new one, right? So we have to work on that level. Those of you who are brand new, I apologize if I'm not spending enough time for you, but right, I have to find the middle road for everybody in the class. Just remember about YouTube. Lean heavy if you need it. You know, this class, I think it's this class, got something like 500 hits on YouTube. Who's watching those movies? I don't think it's us. Somebody else has found this. I wonder if they're going and getting my handouts and my assets. Weird. All right, so it goes. So if you look in here, there's some HTML and CSS, but we're not going to start there yet. I'd like you to just peek inside the images folder for a minute. Now there's one thing in there that's called Earth, and it says 450 by 450. That means I probably resized it to 450 pixels by 450 pixels and gave it that name so I wouldn't have to look. But what I want to go over quickly is how do you find out the sizes of the photos you already have? So again, there's two ways to do it, right? On a Mac, you would typically do Command I. You click the image once and you do Command I. And you look on the left, here's dimensions, 450 by 450. Command I. Since I'm on a Mac, I can't really demonstrate it for Windows, but what I can say is I would right click it and I'd find Get Properties. Now, I don't have that, so I can't show you, right? You would right click it on Windows and Get Properties. This way you'd know how big the images are that you're working with. They might have been delivered to you. Now, I see a discrepancy here. When I go to Mars, which isn't listed with a size, and I check its size. So on Windows, I do my Get Properties trick. I'm on a Mac, so I do Command I, which by the way means Get Info. And I could see it's smaller, 400 by 400. That's a little disturbing to me, because if the idea is to have the whole website, or I'm putting these things in rows, so I want them all the same size, I'm not going to be able to do it at 450 by 450, because I can't make this picture larger. To be clear, you could never make a picture larger and keep its quality. So that means I'd have to go to the bigger one and make it smaller. But let's leave this folder for a minute, and I want you to look in the folder called Original Images. Now the idea is, those are photos I wasn't sure I wanted to use, so they haven't been sized. They're probably very, very big, which brings me back to some basic advice. When you're just starting to gather stuff, if you're the one in charge of finding the photos, start really big. If your originals are really big, you could always make them smaller, but you can't do it the other way. Starting big is always safer. I want you to open the picture called Stars Large in Photoshop. So I'm closing some extra stuff that I have out. And now I'm going to open it in Photoshop. There are several ways. You could open Photoshop first and do File Menu Open. But the way I do it, and I'm just going to be frank at home, is I Control-click because I'm on a Mac, and I use Open With, and then I choose Photoshop. Now, I do believe one of you, was it you, Jonathan, who told me it's pretty much the same on Windows? That I could right-click on it and in Windows and get something just like Open With?
Let me see real quick.
You can.
You can? Great. That's just great. So that's probably the fastest way. And you just open it in Photoshop. All right. So while that thing's opening up, you know, I want to say when you freewheel in Photoshop, just playing with montage, you have so much freedom with how big it is. And one thing that this class just doesn't have time for is how different would it be if we were all at a magazine? You know, what would the rules be? If we were all at a newspaper, if we're all for the web. And the thing is, each of those environments have different rules. You know, for example, I've not worked at a magazine, but I think they like 300 dots per inch to get the best print. I have worked in news, and I know that they like 180 dots per inch, you know, because the ink spreads on newspapers. But the safest is the internet, because the internet always likes 72 dots per inch. But how big is always a big question. We're going to take that a little further today. But, and frankly, there are no rules. There's just trends. There's some people who never get bigger than 1,000 pixels wide. And their logic is the smallest computer, I'm not talking about phones, but the smallest computer is at least 1,000 pixels wide. So they're like, okay, I know it'll fit even on the smallest computer. Others are like, no, people are buying bigger monitors now, and some of them are as big as 2,500 pixels wide. So the window for big is somewhere between 1,000 and 2,500. Basically means it takes practice in a given area to make your own mind up. I'm going to give you some tricks today that'll help you think it through. Anyway, right now we've got this first image open, and I want to point out a couple things about what we're going to do with it. By the way, we're going to put an astronaut in here, floating around in space. So what I want to do first is make sure that you do have your rulers on. All right, double check that your rulers are on. Right, that's, yes. Did someone have a question?
How did you put on rulers?
Well, the best way, you're on a Mac, aren't you?
Yes.
Command R is the fast way. But on any computer, you can go to the view menu. The rulers are always under the view menu. So that's good to know. Any program, any computer. But the next thing, you always change, you're welcome. You always change it to pixels. So I want to remind you how to do that, right? Usually you could double click a ruler. So once you see the ruler, just double click right on it, right? And here you could say pixels or inches. We want pixels. Most computers will let you right click on it or control click on it. This is my favorite way. So anyway, you're looking at this image, and even if you eyeball it, you could see it's about 1,500 pixels wide, right? And it looks like about 1,000 pixels tall, right? All right. I want to mention, though, that there's two ways to change its size. I want to revisit something because some of you are going to want it. Hey, by the way, if you're in the crop tool, I was in the crop tool from our last class. So it looked like that, you know. To get out, find the escape key on your keyboard. It's usually in the top left, at least on a Mac. It says ESC on it, escape. That doesn't work out for you, just click a different tool. You know, if you ever want the exact size of something, you go to image size. Also, if you want to keep the shape, just make it smaller or bigger, you go to image size. If you don't want its shape, you use the crop tool. I want to do a quick visit to image size first. So, image menu to image size. This is the best way to get an exact size. So this is how big it is. And I could tell by the resolution that this is an internet image. Whenever you see 72 dots per inch, it's for the internet. It might be for a movie or an animation. It's definitely for the screen. This number is way too low to print a good-looking image. It would look really ugly if you tried to print it. I want to leave this, though, because I don't really want this shape at all. So let's click Cancel. Let's go back to the crop tool, which we haven't visited recently. I'd like you to click the crop tool. And there's a couple things I need for you to do with me. One, I would like, if there are numbers up here, like mine, I'd like you to click clear. This little button here, clear. Yours might already be empty, so you're fine. But if you want to clear them out, click clear. The next thing, by the way, a lot of you are going to want to do this on the midterm. I want you to check out this first little menu. It only belongs to the crop tool. So if you're in the wrong tool, you won't see it. Crop tool. It's right here. By the way, you could tap the letter C to find it. Remember this little menu? We haven't seen this in a while. The default is ratio. I never use that ratio menu. It really doesn't help. Not for someone who wants things to look really good. So I always switch it to width by height by resolution. Here's where it gets interesting. Since you're at the same computer, I imagine at least a lot of you are at the same computer right now. These things were probably already set. But if you start working at the school labs once we reopen, you're going to have to check these every time. The rulers are going to be off or they're going to be wrong. The crop tool menu is probably going to be the default, right? So you're going to have to remember where those features are. All right. Now, we know that this is 1500 wide by 1000. What if we wanted 1000? Let me just think this through. Let's say we want an 800 pixel square. All right. Width by height by resolution means you could put in the width here, the height here, and the dots per inch. That's the same as resolution here. Let's start on the left. Could you put in 800 px? Be very careful that you do write px. If the computer thinks you mean inches, that's way too big. You're probably going to crash your computer. 800 px. Since I want a square, let's go to the next box and also type 800 px. Now, the truth of it is, we looked at image size before, and we saw that this image is already at 72 dots per inch, which is always what the internet wants. So I don't actually have to fill it out. But if the image said 300, when I looked at it, I would have to downsample. I would have to take it down to 72 dots per inch. So let's just type 72 in there. Can't hurt. And that is the resolution we need. So I want to remind you, at this point, you do get some choices. You could grab the corner of this crop box and choose any size you want, as long as it's not smaller than 800 by 800. This one here, I could see by the numbers showing up, is way too small. Would it work? Well, it would work. It would make it 800 by 800, but since I'm only choosing 400 pixels by 400, it would have to blow them up. Photoshop stinks at making things larger. So the one rule is, choose something at least the size that you want, right? It could be bigger, and that'll work, but it can't be smaller. That means I better reverse my path here. And this is the smallest I could pick. I could get bigger if I want, because Photoshop does a great job at taking lots of pixels and shrinking them. Crunching them to a smaller size. Next, I'd like you to press inside and choose the part of the photo that you'd like to use. Remember, there's going to be an astronaut flying around in here. I think he's going to look great with some of these flares. So I want to keep some of these flaring stars. So you just press inside, move it around. Don't do that, because that white will become part of the image. All right, once you get something that you're pretty happy with, we're ready to accept the crop. So you hit return. If that doesn't work, hit it again. Return or enter. Now you don't have to do this, but if I did go to image size, I could verify what just happened. It is now 800 by 800 by 72. I just want to repeat a small idea. Image size is best when you're keeping the same shape. So let's say a photographer hired you. They don't want you cropping their photos, right? That's part of their job. So you can't crop them, but you might need to make them smaller to fit on the website. In that case, you'd only use image size. When you're the boss and you're like, no, I want squares, you're going to have to use the crop tool. All right, I want to get busy with an image and I want to go over searching. But before we do that, I have to say something. I like technology okay, which is funny for a multimedia teacher to say, but it's really being creative that I like. I start getting mad at technology when it gets in the way of our creativity. So I'm a little mad at Zoom and I'm a little mad at Google because they're just so restless. They don't hardly give you a chance to catch your breath. Every time I touch either one, they've made a change. Let's see about searching. I want to look for a good astronaut photo. Now there's a couple things we need though. He's got to be big enough to look good on an 800 by 800 photo. So if I find an astronaut bigger than that, that's great. I'll shrink him down. But if I find an itty bitty astronaut, the guy's 100 pixels tall, can't do a hell of a lot with that. You know, he's just going to be too small. So we're going to look for a big one and a legal one, right? So let's switch to a browser. Let's go back to Chrome. I'd like you to open up a new tab and search the word astronaut. So again, if you're not good at spelling, look at mine, right? ASTRONAUT. Don't be embarrassed, right? Some of you guys speak 2 languages, 3 languages. That'd be a lot of spelling. I only speak 1, so make spelling easier. All right, once you're in here, I want you to click images because we're not interested in articles about astronauts. You know, there's some cool photos here, right? But I don't know which ones are legal and which ones aren't. And before we do a clever search, I want to point something out. Right off the bat, you could see a bunch of them come from Wikipedia. Wikipedia. What is The Verge? I don't know. Quick and dirty tips? I don't know. A little scary sounding. And if I look at these, some of these are websites I never heard of, some I've heard of. Now, you stay right here for a minute. I want to show you something. On today's handout and last week's handout, I did include a little section I want to point out, this part. I like Pexels, I like Pixabay, and I like anything wiki. Wikimedia, Wikipedia, and they have other wikis out there. It's all one company. They're reliable, they're safe, they don't ask for your credit card. I don't like Flickr. You'll see a lot of images that are gorgeous on Flickr. Why don't I like Flickr? I don't like Flickr because you have to create an account with them to download. I'm not a Flickerer. I don't Flickr. I don't want to have to create an account just so I can get an image, right? And again, those are often belonging to individual people, and I'm not really sure what the licenses are. So I just don't like Flickr. So I'm not going to use anything. PX here, I don't like, because again, ultimately, they'll give you a couple free things so that you pay them for more expensive things. And it makes the whole process kind of clumsy. There are lots of, I found one today called something like goat photos. And it was actually really cool. I actually liked it and everything was free. The thing is, until you start recognizing things, it gets a little difficult. Let's see what we could do about it. Before we even deal with that, let's go over something about advanced searching. Could everybody go to settings right here in Google Images? We're interested in advanced search. You know, last week we focused on image size and usage rights. So if you look at image size, let's see what they've got for us. Now, large, medium icon doesn't mean anything. That's just guessing. So I'm going to come down to these. Larger than. Well, remember the outer space shot itself is 800 by 800 now. So it looks like if I get anything this size or larger, that should be good. Doesn't guarantee it. Maybe the photo's mostly outer space also. But let's try it. Larger than 800 by 600. That makes sense. So you're going to do your own thinking on this. But this is the way I look at it. You know, what do I need? Remember the elephant in the room? We chose that elephant to make sure it was big enough for the room. Larger than 800 by 600. Let's go down to usage rights. So I'm a little mad, as I mentioned, at Google because they don't have proper articles explaining this recent change. They used to, and then they made changes, but they have not posted their logic. Do I want Creative Commons? That's what I'm going to pick, by the way. But it says commercial and other licenses. You definitely don't want that. Commercial always means money. So the chances are if you pick that, it's all going to be websites selling photos. I definitely don't want that. If it says all, it's probably going to be a combination. So I'm going to go to Creative Commons licenses. Those are designed to be free. There's a lot of law around it, but we can't go into more detail. Creative Commons license is your best bet. I'm not satisfied with this, I have to tell you, right? But it's what we've got right now. So let's click the search button. So you're looking for something 800 pixels or larger. You want to know that they're legal. So now if you look at the bottom here, it says Pixabay, Pixabay, Flickr. I already talked down, even though it's legal, it's a pain in the ass. Oops. It's a bit of a headache. I want to sound more like a teacher. You see where I'm going with this, right? It takes some experience to start figuring out what's going to work for you, what isn't going to work for you. I see a lot of Wikimedia stuff in Wikipedia, but I do want to remind you something. I do like Pixabay, so that is on the table for us. So let's take a look. I don't want this one. It's artwork already. It's not legal to take someone's artwork. It does say it's Creative Commons, so I guess the artist said it's all right. I don't want this one because it stops at his knee, and I want him floating in space. This guy's looking perfect to float in outer space right here, right? And it's Wikimedia. Let's take him. Can you guys click on this fella? So this is you all see him too? We should be seeing the same images.
Yeah.
Great. Let's take this guy. Let's click him. Now, I wish we could download right from here, but you can't. I'll admit that might work sometimes. Again, the rules keep changing. It isn't safe to guess. So once you see the big one, click it one more time. Now, here we are again in a Wiki product, and the way Wiki works, not the other brands, but this is the way Wiki works. Even though you chose a big one, it's showing you the other sizes you could take. That's all pretty cool. So I definitely want something that's bigger than 800, at least in the height. The first number is always width. So let's take this one, right? So this here, you can see the height is taller than our current image. So let's click that. 576. Let me just zoom in a bit so you can see it. This is the one I want, right? And this is all because we checked the size of our background. All right, so now it's showing you the one at the size that we want. We're ready to finally download it. Look, before we download, I want to mention, for one, too many of you have your camera off. Two of you wrote me about why your cameras are off. You guys are totally excused, all right? Those of you have your camera off just because you like privacy. Well, so do I. So what if I start teaching like this? Is that a little disappointing?
You got a nice background though.
Yeah, I know. This is my favorite room in the house. I wish I was teaching color theory. Do you see the pink ceiling over there?
I see it. So it's not bad to like hear your voice and then see that background at the same time.
The backgrounds are up to you. I see at least one person with a beautiful background. Hey, listen, guys, also don't turn off your names. I can't take attendance without your name. So guys, listen, I don't mean to be like this, right? But I've said this all before, so I'm really getting tired. I can't repeat things. It's college. First day, second day, and third, I said, leave your cameras on and leave your names on. Do you want to be marked present? So if you roll over your own picture, the 3 dots will show up. You could click it and you should be able to put your name back. Rename, first and last, no nicknames, nothing, right? Guys, I can't memorize 100 students. I'm just bad with names. Okay. Where were we? All right. Yes, the image. So I just want to say one more thing, though. The problem with this particular part of the class is wherever the photo comes from has different rules about how you download it. Some have a big button that says download. Some lie. You click the download button and it's an ad for something, So it really is the Wild West out there. Wiki is reliable. It's always the same. So I'm leaning on them a lot lately. So I'd like for you to do this. You either right click or control click to get the menu and save image as. The real question becomes, where do we want to put it and what should we call it? So I'm going to simplify the name and just call it astronaut. So I'm going to rename it before I save. It's a JPEG, so I'm going to leave the .jpg part. Some of your computers show that, some do not. It's all right, either way. Astronaut.jpg. it's going to save to downloads. And since I've been given the choice, I don't want it in downloads. So here's the first test. Do you remember where you put your folder? Right? So that's where we want to go. And there's folders in the folder. So first thing I want to find today's folder. I put mine on the desktop. So I think a lot of you probably did. Some of you have even better systems. Some of you left it in downloads. And right now, that's going to have to be okay. I'm going to the desktop. I'm finding today's Class 10 assets.
Astronaut JPG, right?
It is a JPG, and the only thing that throws me a little bit is the Windows question. You know, like I don't have Windows here to test things. So, you know, you don't have to write JPG if it's a JPEG. Again, if we had even more time, I'd ask everyone who has Windows in the room to turn your extensions on so that they're not hidden from you.
They're not.
They're not. Yeah, for some of you, they're not. You might have turned them on earlier, you know, into your own computer. Some of you, they're hidden. Jerson's clearly are hidden right now. So Windows experts in here, do you think there's a problem if he types .jpg? Would that
No.
break anything?
No, it should still be able to recognize that it is a JPEG.
It does.
We all just froze. We froze from it. It shouldn't. So Jerson, you could type .jpg there, and you know, it's okay to cross your fingers a little bit. You know, I can't go over every detail in it, but keep me posted if there's problems. I do have a handout for you, if you want, that goes over this kind of Windows detail. All right. Next, I found my folder, but I'm not sure which one I want to put it in. You know, if I put it in images, then it's ready for the code. If I put in original images, it's a way that I separate things so that later on, when I go to the internet, I know these shouldn't be uploaded. You know, I think today, let's make life easy. I think it might work best if we just put it in the images folder. So I gave it a new name. I found today's big folder. Inside of it, I chose the images folder, and I'm going to save it now. So it should be easy for us to find that way. All right, once you've got that image downloaded, we're ready to go back to Photoshop. I do want to say something, though, to all of you in here, because, you know, a lot of you guys are very creative. Everyone has their own style. Some people save everything to downloads and move it later. You know, just get it into the folder right afterwards. Some save everything to the desktop. It's all acceptable. But in the end, you want some kind of folder structure that could work in your favor. Okay, let's go back to Photoshop then. All right, we're going to leave this picture here, right? And we're going to open up the astronaut. And since I'm already in Photoshop, I think I'm just going to do it from the File menu. So File menu, Open. And now we have to go find our folders. So everyone needs to know where they put their folder today. Mine is sitting on the desktop. So I use this shortcut. This is the main folder, Class 10 assets. So I double click it. I just made the decision of putting it in images. So I double click that. And there I am. I'm going to open up astronaut. And this is not astronaut. What's going on here? Huh. Give me a second. See what just happened. I want to just check something real quickly. That is definitely an astronaut in there. All right, let me get back to Photoshop with you. All right, I just did File menu open. Something very strange is happening with Photoshop today.
It's not letting me put the image in the Photoshop.
It's not letting you open it in Photoshop? Do the rest of you have it open in Photoshop?
Yes.
All right, Jerson, give me
Yeah, it's working just fine for me.
Okay.
I know this is clearly a glitch, right? Like it's odd that I just double checked the photo, and I'm gonna try to do this a different way. It scares me a little bit because I especially can't afford my computer to start misbehaving. So I'm gonna
Mine is saying could not complete your request because of a program error.
You're gonna have to give me a second to troubleshoot this first. So I apologize for that. But this is completely bizarre, and then I could troubleshoot for you. Can't really do them both, and I can't do the demonstration like this. Never saw anything like that in my life. Sorry about that. There's really very little I can do. Things get weirder and weirder. All right. I guess this is part of multimedia. If your computer bugs out completely, usually the first steps at that stage is to quit the program that's fighting with you and reopen it, which is what I'm about to do. If that doesn't work, you restart the computer. Jerson, I haven't forgot you, right? But I do have to fix this first, obviously. So I'm going to quit the program. Please don't join me on that. File menu, quit. I actually prefer Command Q. Unless something went wrong with the image, I should be able to reopen Photoshop and it may behave better. And I'm going to open up the astronaut first this time. All right, that's what it needed. Photoshop was bugging, but I restarted it and now it feels better. Let me go ahead and open the other one. I saved it right before I closed everything down. All right. Jerson, how are you trying to open it? Are you using file menu open, or what method are you using? Turn your mic on if you would.
Oh. So I tried doing open with Photoshop, didn't let me. I also tried dragging the picture, and that's what I usually do because it's just easier.
Okay, and that worked for you? Or
No, that didn't work for me.
Got you. Do you still have it open in the browser where we got it?
Yes.
Go back to the browser for a minute.
Okay.
Right? Download it again. This time, let's not add the .jpg.
Okay, could be that too.
Yeah, I'm feeling nervous about that decision to begin with. Right? Just download it regular.
Should I put save link as or save image as?
Definitely save image as.
Oh.
The link is literally code.
Oh, so I guess that's what I did then.
Okay, that's all right. Lessons learned, right? Save
Right.
image as. You're welcome. All right.
Okay.
Okay. So guys, we don't want to crop this image, right? I'd rather bring him in full size, but I do want to get him out of the photograph he's currently in. I'm in the crop tool right now. So I'm going to click escape. And I'm also going to switch I usually switch to the move tool. Just make sure I don't accidentally crop it. Now what we want to do now is select him. And there's a number of ways we learn that might work. So I want to go over a couple things, right? Just look with me for a moment. The first time we tried the magic wand tool, don't join me just yet. I want to make a point. That was the one that's selected by color. You could tell it's difficult to select by color. He's got different colors on him, right? With the duck, we selected the background because the background was so flat. But it doesn't work in this one because there's still some blacks inside him, right? So that's not going to work. So I'm not going to do either of those. We tried at some point the polygon lasso. Remember the one that lets you select in straight lines? But he's not straight, so that's not going to help. Now, did we ever try the magnetic lasso? I don't think we did. But I think what I want to do is go with the most modern method. I want to go over two tools. The newish object selection tool, which was awesome. I don't know if you remember it, but we'll do it. And we're going to switch to quick mask to perfect it. All right, so we only did that once before. I'd like to review it. So what I'd like for you to do is I want you to find, not this tool, they look very similar, so just give me a second. It's a new tool, so I'm still getting used to it. This particular tool right here, right, this one right here, the letter that finds it is W. So if you happen to be elsewhere, you could just type W. But I do need for you to remember, W stands for a whole set of tools, not just the one we want. So you might be seeing this, or you might be seeing this. There's three tools there. So once you hit W, make sure that you press that tool, if necessary, to get this one. Object selection. We used it before. It's amazing, and it works best if the background's not too complicated. I don't know if you guys recall, but I'm pretty sure we started getting the background with this tool, even though it had like weeds behind it and dirt underneath it, and it still was able to recognize the elephant, but it wasn't perfect. So we went in and perfected the selection with quick mask, which we're going to do again. So if you've got this tool, your job right now is to select the astronaut, but try to get close. Don't include too much of the other stuff. So you want to get pretty close in one shot. That ought to do it, and let go. Now this takes a lot of data and some RAM from your computer as it's analyzing pixels to try to figure out which is the object and which is the background. And it's going to be tough, especially on the soles of his shoes, which are the exact same color as outer space. Now I see flaws around the place. There's a bit of his face shield that's not selected. I want to prove it. Don't join me yet, but I just want to point out, see, he's missing part of his helmet. And as I predicted, part of his shoe, right? Let me Command Z that. So what we need to do is perfect that selection. All right, folks, quick mask. All right, now you guys actually rocked quick mask, which is an advanced feature, but it went very well. So I think it probably will go just as well today. All right, here's the way you do it. You make a basic selection with any tool, just like you just did. Then you come to the bottom of the toolbar. So please look just underneath the colors on the toolbar on your left. Just underneath the colors is a little tiny rectangle with a dotted circle. That's a button for quick mask. I'd like you to click it once. Now I know a couple of you typically have a hard time finding tools, right? So I just want everybody to let me know as soon as possible if you can't find the tool, right? I'm going to assume everyone with their cameras off have good reason because I'm just tired of the subject. Now what you should be seeing is a lot of red.
I'm kind of having trouble finding it.
You are having trouble finding it? You know where the toolbar is though, right?
Yeah.
When you go to the bottom, do you see the colors? There's two colors there at the bottom of your toolbar. Right underneath it. Do you see that little square with a circle in it?
Hold on. Oh, okay.
You do see it?
Yeah.
Okay. So you click it, you should be seeing a lot of red right now.
Okay.
All right. By the way, folks, this is one of my favorite tools. And if you master it, there's 3 or 4 other wonderful technologies that relate with the exact same steps. It's a kind of masking is what we're doing. That's the larger subject. Okay. You might remember that we used the brush tool last week to paint mask where things are missing. So I want to point out what I mean by that. I don't want this bit of red here, right? So I'm going to need to fix that in quick mask. And we use the brush tool for it. Now there's a couple things we need to remember about using the brush for any purpose. One, you want to be in control of its size and if it's a soft brush or a hard brush. Now there's a kind of clean edge here. I think I might want a hard brush. So how do you do it? Well, you click the brush, then you come way up here, look in the top left, and I know some of you are used to this already. There's a circle up here. Could be small, could be large. You click it to get your brush options. This little circle, top left. I'm going to bring the side slider over, and I just bring the mouse out just to see how big it is. It's hard to see on my screen, I realize.
How'd you get your brush?
So the first thing I did was I clicked the brush on the toolbar, because that bar on the top changes for the tool. So first I click the brush. Now, are you finding the brush okay?
Yes.
Okay. Once you find the brush, this bar on the top, by the way, it's called the control bar. Gives you all the options for any tool. I want this one. It's got a little number underneath it.
Mm-hmm.
So you click that. Did you find it?
Yeah, I understand that. I just forgot where the brush was.
Okay. So you want to find a size that works for you. You up it, you bring the mouse over and see if it looks agreeable to you. The next thing I'd like to say is if your brush is very soft, like you were taking out a pimple and you want to make sure it blends with the skin, you don't want that now. I'm going to suggest a hard brush. So I'm bringing that up to 100. And you just hit return or enter to accept it. All right, so we chose Quick Mask. We chose a drawing tool, the paintbrush for it. And now all you have to remember is this. That red part is not selected. If I want it included, I paint with white. So I look where the colors are and I make sure white's in front. Quick Mask will whip out white and black for you automatically. You just have to know which one's in front. Last week, I suggested you use the X key to switch back and forth as you need. You want to bring white in front, and then you could simply do this. Now, when I go back to, when I release Quick Mask, you'll see the selection went right around the part that I want. I'll go back to Quick Mask. What you want to do is look around for troubles. Look at this thing on his arm. I don't know if that thing's important. I might want to take it out altogether, but if I wanted to be accurate, I surely wouldn't want it cut off, right? This is the way it's going to look, this weird little thing over here. So if you're having a hard time finding the edge, maybe you need to get the navigator out. Window menu, navigator. This is one way to zoom around. Window menu, navigator, because it lets you zoom in easily. It lets you move this little red box to get exactly the part you're interested in. So if I want to do this, I make sure I'm in Quick Mask. I need white again. It's just that my brush is too big. So I'm going to make the brush smaller. Hey, would any of you guys like a shortcut to change the brush size? You know, without having to go to the menu? Find the bracket keys next to the letter P. You know, they're straight brackets. They're usually next to the letter P, right? If you hit the left side one, the brush gets smaller. The right side one makes the brush larger. So professionals usually are very ready to touch that key. So I got white, I got a hard brush, which I think is good for this. I'm making it much smaller so I can get inside whatever that object is. I don't even know what it is. And I'm seeing through the transparent red where the object is. I want to say something to you about accuracy in a reasonable way. It's going to be damn small, so people aren't going to see a lot of detail. But if you really blow it, I'm going to take some black space with me. I don't want that. Then you paint with black. White means give me more. Black means give me less. So I'm going to use my X key to switch to black. Now that I've got black, I'm going to come closer to that edge. It's odd, I realize, right? I say black, but it looks like red. Red's the masking color that makes use, strangely, of black. And, you know, black would have been too hard to see what we were doing, so Adobe made the decision of making masks red by default. So I want to say, when you need detail, you spend a lot of time. You zoom way in there, you switch them back and forth, black and white, until it's really hugging the shapes. So what I want to do is I'm looking for trouble now. I'm using my navigator. I'm just dragging this little red box. I got it from the window menu. I'm seeing if there's anything that bugs me. The legs look really neat. I'm glad about that. The feet don't look so great. So I'm going to switch to white again. I actually don't like clicking it. I really do prefer the X key, so it doesn't open up the color picker, it's called. So white, I'm going to do my best to find the part of the shoe that's left out. I will often fake it. There's one thing I've learned as an artist. If I fake it convincingly, it doesn't have to be accurate because no one cares about an astronaut's shoes. They just want to make sure there's nothing distracting going on. So I know from the photo we were looking at that there's black soles on those shoes. And I'm just trying to reveal it. If you ever want to test, just turn off your quick mask by clicking the same button. I think it'll do. So I'm going to go around it. Again, looking for troubles. Ooh, it's a big part of his backpack missing. I wish I knew more about astronauts. It would probably make this easier, right? I'm going to wing it a little. I'm going to make a big brush for myself. This is clearly part of his backpack, so I'm going to do the easy part first. I have the feeling this is the bottom of it. It's going to be really small. You know what I'm saying? It looks like there should be a bottom there, doesn't it? I think I'm going to let it be. I think it looks convincing enough. So I'm just going to work with it. All right, when you feel like it's good enough, and remember, this really depends on who you're working for. If you're actually working for NASA, you better be sure this is super duper accurate. I don't think anyone else is going to care. Like these things sticking off of his backpack, I'm going to ignore them. All right, when you're done with Quick Mask, you finessed it. It's as close as you can get, or close enough for your own, needs. You leave Quick Mask. So you go back to the toolbar, you find the button that turned on the red mask, and you click it again. You're back to what we call the marching ants. We are ready to copy and paste this, right? So if you're feeling pretty confident, turn off your mask. I know I keep repeating that just because people get thrown by that, right? To select it, to use it, you have to turn off the mask. So you go back, click the button, and you'll know how to copy and paste. So now that we're there, Command-C to copy it, Control-C, edit menu if you like. Your stars picture's waiting for you, right? We left it open earlier. So go to the stars picture. And paste. All right. I want to catch my breath. I'm a little hyper. I taught a long class this morning also, but I love doing this stuff. Anyway, how'd it go? Is your astronaut looking okay in there? Yeah? Good.
Yeah.
Very cool. So, the thing is, imagine you were making an animation out of this. I've done that before, by the way. There are ways, most animation programs will even let you bring in Photoshop layers if you know the steps. So I could actually have them separate in the animation program. Some video programs may let you do that also. But I would really want to think it hard. Is it just what I want? I'm going to get a close look at it right now. It looks surprisingly good considering we did like no levels or no dodge and no burn or anything like that. But I think part of the reason is that this particular photo is rather artificial. Someone definitely messed with it. They brought up all the whites, so the stars are gleaming all over the place. Those whites just look really good with his white suit. The other thing that looks great is the stars photo has a lot of blue. It's not the flat black that we imagine outer space to be. And those blues look great because the shadows on this guy's outfit and his backpack are blue. So he's just looking particularly awesome. All right, having said all that, I would like to get a peek at levels just kind of briefly. So I'd like you to look at your layers palette. It might be out, it might be over here with a bundle of palettes. Find the tab. If you can't find it, just go to the window menu. I'm talking about layers. I just want to remind people, we're going to be leaving Photoshop pretty soon, but we're not going to be leaving layers. We're going to be using layers in animation and in video, and something just like it in sound. So I just want to say something about it here. Here's my astronaut layer. I could poke it in the eye. Here's how it looks with the astronaut. I could poke the background layer in the eye. How it looks, the astronauts alone. Here's my combination. I know that the layer on top is highlighted, not this one, this one. So you choose your layer if you want to do levels. Let's do a little bit of levels. Could everybody click, make sure that layer 1 is highlighted? You probably remember Command L or Control L for levels. We've done a lot of it. It's also here though. Image menu, adjustments, levels. You know, I only throw shortcuts at you when something is likely to be used a lot. This one's likely to be used a lot. So I prefer Command L. Okay, if you'd like to see darker darks, and on this guy that's mostly shadows, take this slider and move it to the right. That looks pretty good. If you'd like to see lighter lights, take the light slider. Remember, any of these go left, you're making it lighter. But if you want to focus on the lights, making them even lighter, you take this one and you drag it to the left. Now, if you get carried away, he looks more like a detergent commercial and less like an astronaut. So I don't know. You look pretty good, a little on the dark side. It's really up to you. So the darks and the lights are where you start. The midtones come last, and you could tell there's a fair amount of midtones. That's what this little mountain means. Do I want the mids darker, or do I want them lighter? Right is darker, left is lighter. I'm going to try darker. I'm getting some little drama out of it, and I'm going to accept that. I kind of like it. If you like yours, click OK. So what I'm going to do in a couple of minutes is switch over to the web, and I'd like to put this photo on a web page, right? That's my goal. So I want to go over a couple of things, and I want to resave this document because of a couple of tech issues. And here's one. These photos, I believe, were both JPEGs. Now, once you start adding layers, the layered document is a PSD. You know, Photoshop document. The problem with that is you can't put a PSD on a website. So what I want to do is I want to save it properly. So it's a full-blown PSD saved, ready to reuse, ready to edit another day. And then I'm going to make the JPEG from that. So what we have to do is save as. You know, early this semester, I got some really good questions about what's the difference really, save and save as. And what I said at the time was, there's two main goals, a couple others, but two main goals. One is, I don't want to save over what I'm working on. I already value it. So I made all these changes, but I'd rather save it as a new document. So I use save as and I give it a new name. This way, whatever was older is protected. It's still in its folder. Save as means new if I give it a new name. The other reason is to change format. Let's see what happens if we go to save as now. By the way, in this one case, even if you went to save, it would open the save as window to try to warn you that you're making a Photoshop document. But people know that, just go right to save as. We're saving it because we want to give it a new name, we want to treat it as new, and we already know the format's going to be Photoshop now. It's not going to be a JPEG, just because we made layers, just because of that. So I'm going to call mine stars with astronaut. Remember, we made the stars 800 by 800 pixels. So some people like to do this, 800 times 800. This is going to be a .psd. Notice, even on my Mac today, it's not saying .psd there, right? That's interesting. The thing that I'd like to add, though, is whatever name you give it, let's think for a minute where we want to put it. So let's stop before you actually finish. I prepared a couple web pages so we could play with it. Kevin, you look so ominous with sunglasses and a little dog. You know, you look like one of these, like, ha, I'm going to take over the world type of guys.
Yeah, it's like a evil mastermind with
Yeah, evil mastermind.
animal token on by its side.
You mean the type of guys who just turn around with the chair, the spinning
Yeah.
chair?
Yeah, that's it. And then laugh like wild, right? You know?
There it is.
Like you know you have an organ in the other room for when there's thunder and lightning. Anyway, back to us. So since we are going to work with the web pages, and web pages like the images folder best, I don't know if you guys remember that. You know, image source equals images / let's just put it in the right folder now. So the thing is, you might need to back out to find the folder you want. On a Mac, I do it this way, and I'm pretty confident it's the same on Windows. This up here is telling me the folder I'm in. I'm in original images right now. If you're in images, you stay there, all right? I had to do some quick thinking when my computer almost crashed. So I'm gonna press this so I can back up to Class 10 assets. And that's gonna show me what my choices are. I'd like to get to images. I would add though, you can get there any way you want. I know I put it on the desktop so I can go there instead, open Class 10 assets and then open images. My only point is, if it's heading for the web, put it in your images folder. So I'm going to save it. And I'm going to OK it. I just talked for a moment to anyone in here. Oh, I think we froze. Give me a sec. Hi, guys. I don't know about you, but everyone disappeared for a minute. Okay, listen, I've got to say something about this whole folder thing. It's so nerdy, I can't stand it. And we're all going to find our own style. To be honest with you, because it's a PSD, in my own life, outside of school, I would have saved it into the original images folder. Because I know I can't put a PSD on the website anyway. And then I'd make a JPEG and make sure the JPEG's in the right folder. In any case, it isn't going to break anything. We do have to go one more step. You save the PSD, but not the JPEG. Let me just repeat something. The PSD is there so you could change your mind later. Move the astronaut to a different place, change the levels, change some color, whatever tricks we've already learned. You'd open up the PSD. But whenever you're ready for the website, you got to make your JPEG. So that's going to mean we have to save as again. So let's do save as again. There are other ways to make JPEGs. This is the road I'm choosing this semester. This time it's reminding you that this is a PSD. We're not changing the name this time. We're changing the format. So you saved it to keep the process clean. But now you save as again, go down to format, millions of choices. We want just plain old JPEG. If your extensions are turned on, you'll see the .jpg show up. So here I am picky about the folders. Those finished JPEGs, they should be in a folder called images. I prepared it for you. I want it in there. Okay? Keep in mind, we're all going to make mistakes and have to drag stuff from folder to folder sometimes. But do your best. Try to get it in the images folder now. JPEG options, I haven't given a lot of attention this semester, and I do need to move on. I generally suggest leaving it at medium. Just click OK. This is a good looking image. All right, folks. Now, this is the return of HTML and CSS. So we're going to spend a very short time on this. I need to say something quick. Some of you guys got your computers very late through no fault of your own. Fate was acting strangely between COVID and budgets and blah, blah. So I'm hoping that everybody has Sublime or brackets. At least one person's been using brackets. It's just as good. We're going to need it in a minute, right? So I think what I want to do is put Photoshop aside. So one way to put Photoshop aside is go to the menus up top, the Photoshop menu in particular, and choose Hide Photoshop. That basically means whenever you want it, you can come back down to the bottom and click it again to open it. But in the meantime, it stays out of your way. So I go to the Photoshop menu and I choose Hide Photoshop. All right, let's return to the Class 10 Assets folder, everyone. And I want you to notice the two HTML pages. There's a home page, index.html, and one called Earth. We've actually used these before. And a style sheet called Solar Style. I think I want to open all three in Sublime. So I'm going to open Sublime up. Been a little while. Sublime usually opens with a window of some sort. If it doesn't, you do File menu, New File. I actually prefer New Window, but it's a small difference. Could you please drag your code in? The CSS, the index page. I don't think I'm going to use the Earth page, but we might. So let's drag that in just in case. And I've got this one extra page called Untitled. I'm just going to close that one. I want you to look at the code for index. All right, I got somebody in my waiting room. They probably crashed or something. Give me a minute. The doorbell helps. Okay, so you remember, this is just a little warm up for next week, right? We're going to hit this hard on Tuesday. You might remember that typically when you're working on the website, you have the code out like we have, but we also open the home page in the browser. So I'm going to my browser and I open up a new tab, right? Then I have to find my folder again. And you just want to drag index.html and just drop it in your browser. Okay. Yeah. Or just double checking. Do you have your code open? We're going to need definitely index.html and the CSS, right? First, I want to start with the HTML. This picture that's there, I think is 400 by 400. One of the reasons I chose to make a big picture today is that you could start to see how they differ. This is a visual on your computer. That's what 400 by 400 looks like. Can you imagine 800 by 800? So we're going to bring in a big one, but there's another reason. I want to include the trick to make the photo change size for your phone. Now that we never did before, right? It's a very little bit of code, very tiny, tiny bit, but it's very satisfying. Because we chose big ones for laptops, for regular computers, but people are going to visit on their phone. So we have to satisfy them too. And that's going to involve some changes. All right. Could everybody find their way to the code for the home page? Now, I'd like you to look at line 12. All right. Line 12 should look familiar. I'm going to make mine a little bigger. Right? That's the sole line that puts the picture on the page. Notice it says source, that's how this is pronounced, SRC is source, equals, and in between the quotes, it first says, go to my images folder. And this is the typical way that it's written. It's not absolutely necessary, but it is commonly done. So for this to work, the image we're about to use has to be in your images folder. I want to remind you, I'm looking for the new one we just made. Now, if it's in the images folder, this is what you do. Overwrite that JPEG with yours. So I just type poorly. So I actually had to copy and paste it. I have a capital W, a capital A, all of that. It does have to end in the .jpg unless it was saved .jpeg. We'll know in a minute. All right, save it. Go back to the browser and simply refresh it. So that's what it looks like, twice the size, 800 by 800. It's wider, it's taller, but it's kind of cool. It fits on my laptop kind of nicely. All right. Did your photo show up? Excellent. So
Yeah.
I want to say a couple quick things to you about what you just did. You know, if your view of the internet includes a lot of imaginative stuff, then all the montage we've been doing kicks in. We've been choosing a certain angle on Photoshop. I could have chosen you day-to-day kind of like product Photoshop. If you're working for a brochure, you know, this is how you clean up all those photos of shirts and dresses and pants and size them. But we would all gotten silly in the head from boredom. But if you're going to do creative stuff, you still have to think about size and you still have to deal with the code. So here's the problem. One, does anyone need a hand? Is the code not working? Don't be shy. All been there. Because if it isn't working, the first thing I check is your image in the images folder? If it's not in that folder, this won't work. All right, I'm going to assume that it works. I want you to look at something with me on my end. Watch this. If my browser gets smaller, at a given point, the picture isn't fitting, right? So it's going to be worse on my phone. What can I do to make the picture move intelligently? All right, let's get to our code again. This time, I want you to look on the style sheet. We're looking for IMG, right? Because we know that we could style any of these tags, but we're talking about IMG. So let's go to the style sheet. Here's the border, a little picture frame we're seeing back there. It's 5 pixels wide. It looks like it's this sort of, you know, bluish green, greenish blue. There's the padding that's 10 pixels inside of the picture frame, little tiny little bit of space inside the picture frame. More importantly, there's padding, right, which keeps the text away. Because if I had no padding, it wouldn't look very good. A second there. Oh, I did the wrong padding. Sorry, I meant down here. Right? So we want to make sure that they don't come too close. Now, I'm hoping people remember float. Float right. Could you change that to float left? Save and refresh in the browser. Save it. Go back to your browser, refresh it, see it float to the left side. The text is now on the right. That's the coolest thing about float. It's better than a line. It tells the text what to do. Now, here's the new thing I want you to try with me. Right underneath float, let's make ourselves an extra line. So all the code for image has to be between the 2 curly brackets. So be careful about that. You want an extra space before it closes. And I want you to try this with me. Max width. All right, give me a second there. All right, max width. You set max width to 100%. Put that semicolon after it. There's only one more line. It's pretty easy in terms of quantity. Right underneath that, I want max height. That's set to auto. Well, these 2 lines do magic, and most images on the internet today use these 2 lines. Now, what it means is this. At a maximum, never let this photo be wider than 800 pixels. Why 800? The 100% means 100% of the original. Right? We made those stars 800 pixels with the crop tool. Right? So I mean, never get bigger, but the cool part is, it means, but it is okay to get smaller. So someone on a tablet or a phone can see it. All right, then it says max height, auto. Give me 1 second, please. Marisol, I'm going to be done in like 15 minutes to give you a call. Oh, how great. Oh, great. All right, have fun, make it fun. Sorry, guys. All right. Now, okay, so you usually give one of them 100%, doesn't really matter which one. The other one's set to auto, and that just means automatically follow along, never distort the photo, right? So you don't have to, you know, fuss with numbers. One of them's 100%, the other one's set to auto. Let's save this. So hopefully my demonstration will show you exactly what I want. Let me just show you something. If the browser was smaller now, did I not refresh? I saved it, come over here and I refresh it. There we go. If I make the browser smaller, look. So this is what it's going to look like on a phone. This is what it's going to look like on anything bigger, but it's never going to get bigger. It'll only get smaller. I'm going to troubleshoot some questions, but I want to say something specific about all this. The main reason I don't want it bigger is because it's going to get blurry. It's going to look bad. Now, there are people out there with 3,000 pixel wide monitors, right? So if I don't limit its width, it's going to get big enough for their mammoth monitors, and it's going to get blurrier and blurrier and look like junk. So I always tell it, never get bigger than my Photoshop original, never get bigger than the JPEG I actually saved. So I'm very conscious of that. Today we went with 800 by 800. That's never going to fit on a phone. I don't know about your phone, but it's probably somewhere between 350 pixels wide, maybe 550 pixels wide, the whole phone. You know, I got a iPhone. I don't know what number this is, to tell you the truth. But I looked this up once just to get its exact measurement. I don't remember now. I think it was like 400 and change. So I definitely need the image to shrink. Did the shrinking work for you? It did? So
Yeah.
look, I know a bunch of you guys are here just to learn and kind of do mental weightlifting, intellectual weightlifting. I think that's a great reason to learn anything. You know, every time you push your brain cells around, you know, you get stronger in the mind. I know others of you are here just for the degree. That's also not a bad motive to move toward just the degree. But I happen to feel like a bunch of you are thoroughly intending on using this stuff. And I want to teach to all three of those communities. If you're going to use this stuff, those two lines must be included in the 21st century. If this was 10 years ago, you didn't have it yet because people were not surfing on their phones. They just weren't. And now there's more surfing on phones than on computer. So the rules go like this, at least the way I do it. I make my photos big enough for the computer so they're never blurry if someone's on a computer. And then I let the code take care of the phone. Max width, max height. Anybody have any questions for me? No? That went much easier than I thought it would. So look, I just want to mention, what if you wanted to change it now? You know, could you go back to Photoshop? So here's the rule. Something's wrong at my door. Fighting with you? Okay. If I'm not moving my layers around, I could work on the JPEG in Photoshop. Say I want to do levels on the whole thing or change the color of the whole thing. Maybe I want to make it black and white, feel real old. If I need to change the layers separately, I have to open the PSD. Let's try the JPEG. Can we all go back to Photoshop? Now, last time we saved a JPEG. I'm looking at mine and the PSD is still out, which means I put away the JPEG. Is yours still a PSD? It should say on the tab. Anyway, if you look at your layers and you see two layers, you know that you're in the PSD. It's the only one that has layers. Pick a layer you'd like to change. I'm going to change the color of the astronaut first. So I'm going to the astronaut layer and I'm going to do Command U. If I want to tint him like a tinted black and white photo, I turn on colorize. Now he's reduced to two colors like black and white, but I get to pick the color instead of black. If this guy had a rainbow outfit, I wouldn't do that because I'd lose the rainbow, right? I'd have to leave colorize off. And this way, every color on him is going to shift differently, but it's harder to understand. So I'm going to click colorize today and pick a color. I'm going to OK it. I'm asking myself if I want to change the background, and I think I'm going to go with heavy drama, like he's lost in space or something. So I'm going to make that space picture much darker. I'm going to go to the background layer and do some levels. Command L. It's tempting to bring the elephant into space this time because he's tired of the room. But I'm going to stop myself. I make a couple changes. I click OK. So remember, we're in the PSD. If you like what you got, I like mine a lot. It's a lot more exciting. I'm just going to plain old save. I don't need save as. It's already got a name. It's got a home. It's already a PSD. Just save. Command S, Control S, or File Menu Save. Thing is, we need the JPEG to be updated. So first, you update the Photoshop file. This is the way it works. Then you make it in the format again. Now here's the trick though. If you give it the exact same name, put it in the exact same folder, the website's already updated. You just have to refresh the browser. So let's do save as and make the last JPEG for today. File menu, save as. I'm going to choose JPEG from the format menu at the bottom. I'm already in the images folder, right? But if you're not, and it's going to ask me when I click save, should I save over? There's already one there. It's going to say replace. So I click save. And sure enough, it says replace because it sees the old one. And I say, yeah, please replace it. You know what I'm going to say here? Leave it at medium. Just click OK. Now all I got to do is get back to the browser and refresh it to see what happened. The code is fine. Whoop, did I put it in the wrong place? The teacher definitely needs a break. I save this. Let me just see about my JPEG. Because remember, my computer was bugging out earlier. Oh, it saved it as a copy. I didn't really want it to do that. Did that happen to anybody else? Did yours just work? I'm having a weird computer day. This is what I'm going to do. Let me just save it again. I want to see what happened for myself. Save as. It's saved under the wrong name. It added copy.
It's been doing that automatically with Photoshop
Really?
for me for a while, yeah.
Has it really? So it doesn't usually do that. I want to try one more time myself. I'm going to be the guinea pig. JPEG, it does not say copy. I'm going over the original one. If I say replace, it should not make a copy. It really shouldn't. Save, it says replace. It's giving me the correct name. Why would it change the name? Do you want to replace it? You bet I do. I already told you that. I'm okay in it. I want to look at my folder first this time because it could just be change in Photoshop behavior. I'm going to check by date, see the newest one. No, it's still doing it. All right, what that basically means is we're going to have to rename it here if that's happening to you. So what I'm going to do is throw out the old one. Trash it. I'm going to take the new one and make sure it doesn't say copy on it. That shouldn't be doing that, really, but things keep changing, so who am I to judge? Now that it has the name of the original, I should be able to refresh the browser. I want to go over the moral of the story that let everybody out. I feel rather tortured this week by endless technology changes. You heard me gripe before about Zoom, then Google, and now I'm griping about Photoshop. I've been doing this exact step for 20 years. And I liked the way it worked for 20 years. Other people probably didn't because they were probably saving over things by accident. If it continues to do this, if I learn anything about it, I'll share it with you. Other than that, you just have to go to the folder and organize it yourself. Did you see the new one in the browser? Did it work for you? Folks, listen, I want to say something. My class is a combination of fun and labor. I hope the fun is winning out over the labor. One person took my animation class who'd taken this class and he goes, is this going to be as hard? I was like, is my class hard? I didn't know that. Truth is, if you're heading to my animation class, I got to warn you, it's harder. It's twice as hard. And a lot of you are rather prepared for it. But I just want to say, I do hope you're enjoying it anyway. So here's where we're at right now. We are moving into the midterm, starting Tuesday, and that's going to be review. And I'm going to give a very generous review. So anyone who feels a little icy about the code, this is exactly what you need. If anyone completely tanked the part with the code, yeah, I'll admit I'm a little worried, right? I imagine most of you did homework 4 from class 4. If you didn't, it's rather late now, but since I didn't grade it, maybe you could slip one in before the teacher notices. It's gonna be a big chunk of your grade. So if anyone missed it, go back to the homepage, find class 4 and do that homework. Other than that, I'm gonna see you all on Tuesday. Anybody have any last questions for me? Oh man, I'm so tired of hearing myself.
Not exactly. Aside from the fact that, how hard is your animation class? Really?
How far?
How hard?
How hard? Well, if you love animation, it'll help a lot. If you go in just out of curiosity, it'll be deadly. It's
All
really,
right.
to be frank, it's really got to be somebody who loves it, because you know, to do an animation, there's 24 drawings per second. So just think about that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
So a lot of my, really 10 seconds is 240 drawings. So in my class, I try to show people how to cut that down a lot with something called tweening. So that's great. That speeds it up a lot. But there's a lot of techniques, 5 different flavors of animation that semester, a couple weeks of just working with shapes and stuff before we actually make people walk and talk. And
I haven't learned about tweening, but in fact, I'm doing some animation right myself on my iPad while doing this work. So I'm essentially multitasking.
So listen, before we go any further, I do want to say, everybody here, that went well. At least I hope it did, as far as I could tell. I always know in the classroom because I could actually walk around. But that's the weirdest part of Zoom for teachers, I have to guess. But I do hope it's going well. I wish you all the best. I'll see you all Tuesday. Do not be late, please. Just help me out. Really, just as a favor. Come on, how about that? Come on time, everybody. I'll see you all on Tuesday for a really good, solid review. We're going to head into the midterm. I think some of you are going to love it. It's about graffiti. So it's a subject that's really important to New York because, you know, modern graffiti was born in New York City. New York. I'll see you all Tuesday.
All right.
See you guys.
Thank you. See you.
Have a good afternoon, Professor.
Good afternoon.
Have a good one.
You too. Anybody with questions, email me, please.